Hello everyone, Myrmonden here. Welcome to my review of A Place Further Than You, episode 4. Short review here. I found it a pretty good episode. It was really hard also compared to Eurocamp, especially Eurocamp last week, because they had a whole exact moment like, I want to wake up and see the sunlight. It hadn't had that moment, right? So yeah, but it was pretty good. One thing that I'm thinking right away is that it looks a little too much, especially of disbelief though. In my opinion, I'm not saying it's bad because it's anime, right? And of course, we can watch animes having a main character, I don't know, fight like 20 dragons in a row or something, and I can do it, yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's not a story, right? Because when you see them doing these things, though, they're really bad at it. Like, it feels like they should die. It feels like they have zero chance of surviving basically the normal forest in Japan. Not Antarctica, just like surviving in the camp, camping outside, you know, random place in Japan. Going down there is like minus 40 degrees. They're gonna freeze right away. It's like, wow, they can barely put the flag there and so on. I'm not saying that's super easy, but most of that stuff is kind of, I mean, some of the stuff they're doing is kind of easy, right? And also very, very, very tedious. And they're gonna do that while also, of course, being in the frozen one. And they could barely do it, right? They didn't actually do it at normal temperature, so to speak, outside, right? Not a special cold place or whatever. It's kind of like, you know, normal weather conditions, I suppose. So that seems a little implausible. They actually will learn and so on. And doing that, they also have no like star reading skills and so on. They are very unprepared, that's for sure. But I guess they're gonna survive or whatever. It's gonna be fine. It's anime. It's gonna be fine. It's anime, you know. So whatever, right? It should be fine. One thing though, which I think this episode very much alludes to, definitely is foreshadowing, is that, I mean, I think she's gonna go and try to find her mom, right? I think that's what I'm thinking when I watch the episode. There's a lot of this like, oh, she was there when my mom died, pretty much. There's a lot of that, but also the whole thing they're talking about that, okay, my mom used to do yeah, and so on, right? Or I wanna do this and so on. And it feels very, very particularly this episode when they talk about like, you know, surviving and they like have to camp and be together. They get a call in, and she's like, are you all fine? We have your 4 here. That to me is definitely foreshadowing a scene later on where they're gonna be like 3 of them, right? They say, oh, she's out there trying to find her mom's, you know, frozen body, so she's not here, right? They're gonna call in and say, oh, we're only 3, or we're only 2 because she ran after her. That definitely gonna happen, something like that. And generally, I mean, you talk a lot about like, oh, my mom is still there, but she returned. So I think that for sure is gonna be a moment when she loses her judgment, right, and goes out there in some emotional rage in the freezing and death. I don't think anyone will die in this anime, but it's definitely gonna be a moment, probably like episode 10, 11 or so, when it's gonna be like, whoa, they almost died because she went out there and tried to, yeah, some cliffhanger. And I think that's gonna be, yeah, I think that's very, very foreshadow. That's what we call it, this review, yeah, but like foreshadowing. I don't know what they call it, really, like foreshadowing her, you know, yeah, emotional rampage of that out in the snow, yeah. But I think it's very much, especially because she called into as well when you say as I mentioned, that fits me. It's gonna be a moment later in like 5 episodes from now. It's like, we're only 2 here, or yeah, like that's gonna be a thing, right? Definitely. But that's pretty good though. That's pretty good. But the really good part of the episode, of course, was the beginning. Yeah, of course, the really part was the beginning with the mom and the carrot chopping, and it's like, this is the most dramatic carrot chopping ever. It's like, she knows. Can she know? It's like, Antarctica salt. She knows. I was like, I heard this from a neighbor. It's like, what? Oh man. And I was thinking about it though. I was laughing. It was a really, really good scene. The lighting was a horror scene. Her sister's there too, with head, but it was really, really good. And then the mom, of course, was like, this is a kid shit. It's good for beating up people. It's like, what? I mean, all of it was good and so on. And of course the dad locks the door, like pushes her out. I was like, no, I'm sorry, daughter. That was really, really funny. But I have to say, I was thinking about it afterwards, during it too, but especially afterwards, rewatching it, but the review was like, man, that is really weird. Without the context, or actually pretty much without, even without the context, somewhat at least, that seems really, really wrong, right? I mean, this is like some domestic abuse here. She's like, lock the door. It's like, I'm taking care of my daughter now. It's really weird, and I have to say though, I felt that he closed the door. Actually, honestly, I think it was really funny, but when he closed the door, that was really funny, and they kind of, you know, slapstick comedy, you see it in a bunch of different comedies and whatnot. So, you know, that's funny and that's very standard. But actually, the other scene, that I think they kind of animated, obviously overtaking it. But I think the problem is they animated it with him kind of like pushing against the door. But it was more like he was crying. Yeah, it was more like he was like going down and like, I'm sorry, daughter, into the door. Right, it was more of that moment of his kind of like, I'm so sorry, I'm a failure for father, right? And I know you're getting abused and I can't save you. Your mom abuses me too, right? Yeah, so yeah, I'm afraid as well. Definitely had that going for it, and I was pretty clear that was kind of the context that we're going for. But to me, I'm overthinking it. But I would argue, but I would say it looked at least though, there was kind of like pushing the door, right? So he kind of looked like he was like pretty much holding her not to get out. Yeah, it's like that makes it look really, really funky. In that vision, not only is it like, my wife is here to beat my daughter up, okay, I'm gonna lock the door and like, you know, prevent her from escaping. That's kind of how it looked, right? But it was more like he was, you know, crying or being in, yeah, and going into some kind of remission, right? Towards the door, right? Yeah, like falling into the door. So that is what I believe they were going for. But I would argue, say, it kind of looks like he's kind of like locking the door, right? They kind of holding the door so she can't escape. And then it looks really weird. Like otherwise it's kind of funny, but then it's like, that seems a little too much, eh? Like he's the only underused there. Well, I mean, it's comedy, right? It's classic comedy. You can find numerous, usually comedy shows, right? Numerous comedy shows, or I mean, of course, anything like whatever, like Family Guy, The Simpsons, and so on. Especially those kind of shows where they have kind of classic. Like too much of an attractive wife and like a fat husband. Especially those shows, yeah, which is pretty much half sitcoms, but yeah, especially those. Not always they are or they're abusive, but when they are, it's kind of like it's fine because, you know, whatever, she's the actual control in the house, and he married up and she married down and so on. It's very classic, right? So yeah. but I think mainly it was like that is probably supposed to look like he's just kind of crying there, but it looks more like he's like actually holding the door shut, she can't escape. Okay, I don't think that's what they wanted. Anyway, something more. The episode, I think generally for the captain, obviously she's kind of like her actual, more like her mom's sister, right, or something like that. So you said like, oh, it's my mom's best friend from high school or something, and they was together. But I don't care, I don't like her. It's like, okay, and she's like image of her, and she's like, I think kid and so on, right? She has it in the car and so on. She's like, yeah, they mean nothing. And we talked to her, she's like, oh, I barely know her. It's like the daughter of my whatever friend. Was like, I see. It's like both of them are kind of like Sundar, right? They both pretty much love each other. I assume she pretty much raised her after her mom, her best friend, you know, her mom died. She was at home and so on, right? She probably tried to raise her, probably that. If it's something like that is going on there. Or and they both like none of them are like nope, never happened. Yeah, like, they were trying to be professional and like no, we never did that. But obviously, I think mainly she's afraid that she's gonna die, right? You're afraid that her best friend / lover, whatever, right? That her daughter is also gonna go and also die, which she lost her best friend. So I think that's pretty obvious, and that's probably making. And also, it's gonna be a big scene. But as I mentioned earlier, that is for sure gonna be a scene later on when she's gonna leave the car. Being like, I have to go to my mom, and that she will be faulting herself if she tries to save her, right? I think that's going to be I think it's a very obvious event that's going to happen. Absolutely. So I hope you like this review. I'll see you guys next week. Subscribe, and I'll bring you animals every day.